I began my writing career as a critic of the way Vatican II was implemented. I've already criticized, the balloon liturgies and all that stuff, but I was going after what I called a beige Catholicism. I think one of my first published articles was entitled Beige Catholicism. My concern was a Catholicism that had lost its identity, lost its verve, lost its sense of self, lost its missionary elan, was too accommodating to the culture. There's the animal analogy. It allowed the environment to take it over too much. So yes, the implementation of Vatican II, especially in our country, was not done well. If I can invoke Cardinal George one more time, I've never read this anywhere, and I think it's a very wise comment he made. He said the death of Cardinal Meyer was a disaster for the American church. So Albert Cardinal Meyer, Archbishop of Chicago in the late 50s, early 60s, great biblical scholar, a man that knew the culture very well, was at Vatican II at all the sessions. In fact, was, I think, a president of one of the sessions. He knew it in his bones. He knew what Vatican II was about. He comes home from Vatican II. He meets with all the priests of Chicago. They give him a standing ovation. He died 6 months later. He developed a brain tumor and died. And Cardinal George used to say his death was a disaster because he was the one person best equipped to do what Wojtyła did in Krakow, right? To implement the council through a sort of wise set of protocols. An insider to the council who could implement it well. With his death, there was something of a drift, it seems to me, within the American reception of the council. So I'm okay with that. I think there was a problem there. But it's much wider than that. Read Charles Taylor now. It's what he calls the buffered self. The self that's protected from any contact with the transcendent. And there are a million reasons for that, which I've explored over the years. But a culture that's becoming increasingly buffered to the transcendent, that's where a lot of this secularism and so on. The culture, I call it, of self-invention, right? The roots of that going back to Nietzsche and coming up through Sartre and Foucault and everyone in our century. That I invent truth, I invent meaning. Think of, our friend von Hildebrand, the beautiful, not what's just subjectively satisfying, but the objectively beautiful. What does it do? It breaks through the ego. It breaks through my little world. It rearranges me. Well, see, that's a very important religious move because the breaking through of the buffered self now opens it finally to the source of all beauty. And we know how von Hildebrand makes those moves. Same with the truth, same with the good. So I would put my finger there, that it's a loss of the transcendentals, a loss of the ultimate transcendent. Was our implementation of the council not helpful in that regard? Yes, I would say. But don't blame the council. It's not Vatican II. That is not the problem. People like Lubac and Wojtyła and who were there at Vatican II, Ratzinger, that's not the problem. The buffered self is more the problem.